Let's do the employers. Please stop listing positions as fully remote and then mid-interview asking if I'd be comfortable traveling self-sponsored to some random office in Utah occasionally for work. Challenge: I don't have anything valuable to add, sorry, but I've been searching for a job since October and 80% of the remote positions I've interviewed for do this. It's fine to list a position as partially remote, but it's a bit unprofessional to change the work requirements from what was initially presented. Or even worse, once you've started the onboarding process. /+ stop posting a position listed for a location X, then at the very bottom saying it is for a location B. Or posting that you are in a major city but actually being located 40 to 50 minutes outside said city. I report that crap on Indeed every damn time. This happened to me recently. I applied to the location 11 minutes from my apartment. I thought we agreed on that location after the initial phone screening. Then the email invitation for the next interview came, inviting me to interview for the job in the location 45 minutes from my apartment. She also kept referring to me by the wrong last name, so needless to say I declined. I saw a job posting put the location that it would search and filter by as Palmdale, California, when if you read the job description it was actually for a snow removal equipment operator at one of the research bases in Antarctica. I applied for a position listed to be in Fremont, CA. It turned out that they expected me to show up to work in an office in Vietnam instead. That was an extremely short Skype interview. Seriously, when I was recruiting, one job I applied to said fully remote in the description and location, and the lady was shocked when I wanted to clarify with her if I was expected to come into the office post-pandemic. It would make it way easier if they put the actual city as the job location, then put remote work until cleared to go back in person in the description to be more clear. I feel like there'll be an eventual transition to WFH environments for most non-labor style jobs in the next 2 to 5 years anyways. It just makes sense. Yup, I'm definitely seeing a lot of temporary remote due to COVID jobs. My wife doesn't drive. Since we've moved to Utah, this has been every interview that isn't a customer service position. She really likes data entry, which after training should easily be a work from home position. She keeps getting the same thing. So we will actually need you in office 3 days a week. To which my wife replies, I don't drive and your job description says full-time work from home. I've heard her offer a compromise of coming in 1 day a week via Uber. I don't get how employers can flat out lie and not get fined for it. And then have a passive-aggressive attitude when you decline as if you are the one that lied. Tell her to apply to companies that are and have always been mostly or fully remote. Here's a list of tech companies that are. She should consider going freelance. Even if she just sets up a WordPress site and LinkedIn, etc. It costs nothing and gives an idea of interest. Does your wife not drive because of a disability? Your wife might be able to use the ADA to her advantage. Employers are required to provide reasonable accommodation to employees with disabilities. I found a job I was so excited about, listed as remote, started interviewing to find out they expected 50% travel all the way across the country. I definitely pissed the hiring manager off when I asked why they wanted someone in the California office 2 weeks out of the month when the job clearly could be done remote, since the company was working remote this whole year due to COVID. I said I wasn't interested anymore when she said the travel started now. With almost 60k new COVID cases a day in California. Hard pass. It's the bitchiness from employers after you set your boundaries, LMAO. Reminds me of when I got hired in April for a cool startup, nice salary, nice tech stack for me to learn, and fully remote due to COVID in Spain. In July they tell us to go back to the office at 60% 2 days remote a week. This was when all the country's politicians agreed to ignore COVID to pump up tourism. Spain depends on tourism badly, but I didn't expect it to spread to tech fields as well. I started interviewing immediately, and left about a month later. Now we're again flooded with cases and restrictions and they still do half remote. I spoke with the other dev the other day and he'd just left too. I've seen a string of cloud engineer type jobs which say things like, unfortunately although this position is fully remote, candidates must be willing to reside in Sydney. Mate, if it is fully remote, I could be working from the back of a surfboard in Byron Bay and it wouldn't make any difference to you. Exactly, and 9 times out of 10, the work could 100% be done remotely, but they for some reason want you to travel 1,000 miles to sit in a room and do the same thing you were doing at your own house. I'm unfamiliar with Australian law, but is it possible that there are regulatory issues when an employee performs their work in another jurisdiction? Early on in the pandemic, one of my colleagues got stuck in another country while on vacation and was unable to return home as originally scheduled. He had a laptop and internet connection available, so he could have worked, but there was a great deal of concern among the bosses about whether or not he could do so without creating a lot of regulatory issues. The corporate lawyers got involved at some point and eventually they decided that the guy couldn't work but they were going to pay him anyway. Very weird, but presumably there were good reasons for doing it that way. Same here, got a remote job offer and was told then that I would be home only on weekends, because I would be with the client under the week. Anyone interested to build a job site just for remote jobs? They have them remote-only job sites, but most, I find, are sales/commission based. Is it so bad to want to do just data entry or writing, or simply not wanting to be on the phone with strangers 8 hours a day? Had a job application asked me for citizenship. Filled it out, US citizen. Asked for languages, native language, English, fast forward 8 months. Email from the recruiter, sorry, Cannot consider anyone on H1B. My fault for having an Asian name, I suppose. Ended up with a job at PayPal and a master's degree 2 years later, so it all worked out. In terms of location issues specifically, I had some recruiters ask me to work in India or China, to which I was baffled as nothing on my resume or LinkedIn indicate being outside of the US. I'm black and have a very, very ethnic name, as in, there's no other human in the history of the world with my name in spelling nor pronunciation. It goes unsaid that I always get the black recruiter or the hey girl greeting. Like before they even see my face. Is this not a professional environment? What's with all the colloquialisms? I speak English too. You just reminded me that my US-born coworker with a Chinese name couldn't get access to our network or basically any of our internal systems for her first 2 to 3 weeks of work because someone probably in HR assumed she wasn't a US citizen. In all of the paperwork she did, she said she was a US citizen and English is her native language. LOL. Honestly, I hate how companies have abused and redefined the meaning of remote. If you need a whole mini paragraph to explain that remote is a job that is only temporary, requires days in the office, and / or requires you be in the same state, sometimes even city, you don't have a remote position. I've even seen physical requirements, valid driver's license, and own your own vehicle as part of remote jobs. Or jobs that literally can't be done remotely. What the hell is a remote medical assistant? OMG, it's honestly the worst. I've been filtering through remote positions, but at the very bottom of the post, seemingly an afterthought, it says candidate will be required to work in person once office opens, or travel required. I feel like job boards need to filter these better or create guidelines and hire people to make hiring managers stick to them. I've noticed most hiring managers are very prideful and overconfident about how important their position is to the company and often flaunt fake power anyways, and the practice of them making the job seem better than it actually is annoying. LOL. Yet, they think just cause there's some stellar company with all these glowing reviews 75% of the time written by employees, trust me, I worked for one like that you're supposed to bend over backwards to work for them. LOL honey, I'm just trying to pay the bills, whether that's with a billion-dollar corporation or a small startup working out of someone's garage. As long as the check clears, I could care less. On Indeed they will take the postings down or retag them if you report them. I talked to a recruiter about a remote job that was remote except for 3 months on site. All at once. Thankfully I already had a remote job. I told him no go and got, but it is a really good place to work. Yeah, they all are, unless I'm getting a foot rub, a Swedish hooker and 3 free meals a day, it's not that damn good. I add when I say no travel I mean no travel, not just 25% or but the pay is good. I said no travel, why did you even bring up a position that requires travel, much less argue with me about it? Man, they can't even fill out Tuesday entry-level tag in LinkedIn right. I love this post and couldn't agree more. I have seen a trend of this as well. I have had 2 screening calls in the last month where the same thing came up. In my opinion, they are simply doing it to get more applications, thus more data. Employers store your information in their talent pools and depending on who their application software is, Greenhouse, etc., they will possibly share it with other employers who use the same software. This could be completely wrong, however I can't think of another reason for them to do it. Either that, or they think when they've got you on the hook, they can ease the some travel required part in and you'll just fly through it. Sure, I don't mind a little travel for work, but 1, I applied to a remote position for a reason, and 2, I'm not gonna pay my own way for work-related travel. Ever. I can't think of another reason for them to do it. They are absolutely short-sighted, thoughtless narcissists who put minimal thought into the job posting. I've worked places where they post almost the exact same posting for wildly different roles, just updating 5 or 6 keywords and then wonder why they can't find qualified candidates. They employ at multiple locations across a metro area that takes hours to cross, and refuse to put in anything that narrows down the geography, don't want to give our competitors any insight. It's a major metro, you could specify a region and there are whole states with fewer options. HR and executives largely don't understand data and put very little thought into hiring. A vacancy is a hole in a puzzle and they just want it filled ASAP. Some of the job postings that list location as fully remote are not even possible to do remotely from the job description. I'm not sure if they're just trying to get more applicants or if they didn't proofread or what. One posting recently was for a lab position in a chemical company. The description mentioned various lab tests and equipment the candidate should be familiar with, stated temperature variations, standing, etc. Then at the end said fully remote for location. What? I seriously doubt they plan to deliver samples and lab equipment to lab analysts' houses. LMAOOO, imagine that though, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. The government jobs even did this. I contracted for the SBA this summer processing EIDL loans. They said the job was remote, 3 months in now they want us to report to the processing department. I asked, I thought this was a remote position. Management's response, because you live within 50 miles, we can require you to come in the office. They gave us 24 hours to report. I submitted my letter of resignation within 3 hours. They were shocked because the pay was awesome, but the hours were brutal, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 6 days a week. Thanks, but no thanks. Even if you lived across the street, if it wasn't in the contract, they can't expect you to do it. The thing that really pisses me off though is if any of us misrepresented ourselves in an interview or lied on our application/resume, we'd be fired immediately, but employers get away with misrepresenting positions and downright lying about conditions and expectations because we live in a world right now where people don't have the ability to walk away from jobs. It is crappy and deceptive. Edit, forgot a letter. Yup. You lie, you're a terrible employee. They lie, it's just a recruitment tactic. I once applied to a Barnes & Noble being led to believe it'd be stocking/occasional cashier work, only to be thrown into the cafe because I had prior experience on my resume. It wasn't until I was having panic attacks and begging to be moved into a new department when they took me seriously. Like obviously there's a reason I didn't apply to the cafe guys? I don't understand why they lied to me about all of that. They asked if I would be comfortable training in it down the road and I said yes, but they put me there first. It's irresponsible for employers to do that to their potential employees 10,000%. Literally this. Also the ones where they list it as remote in the metadata that is used to sort jobs on job boards, but then when you read the job description they go out of their way to state that it is an on-site everyday position only. Literally just trying to collect more data, and everybody knows when you get a congratulations email, especially when you've been looking as long as I have, you tend to gloss over the details. It should be illegal TBH. This is exactly why I left a job 3 years ago. They promoted an assignment with a 4-week training period, then specific work hours. In the first week, the trainer was replaced with a sub that didn't know the assignment and was directing us from someone else's notes. They said we needed to be registered on 4 different info systems and only set us up on 3. Oh no, the systems had old data from 2 years prior. Training was cut to 3 weeks, work hours and times changed to hours many of us had previously stated we could not work. Some of these people were assigned those hours, regardless. First weekend shift, no one showed for the incompatible hours. Manager explodes screaming at everyone for not being a team player. I get assigned the bad hours, I don't show up, and never look back. Because they're sneaking it in at the interview stage, I wonder whether the actual job contract would reflect this need to travel. I'd probably lie about it during the interview, and if I get an offer I'll read through the contract and see if it stipulates travel, and if not, play them at their own game. Most of the companies that lie about this kind of thing rarely have a legit contract anyways. One look by an attorney with half a brain and it's as useful as a birthday card.
Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.